In this video, I'm gonna destroy all your fears, all your anxiety, all your psychological fears, all your images that cause you so much suffering, waste of energy, and waste of years, using only one image slash structure visually so you can understand and hopefully get more clarity on what's going on. So let's get into it. So we have fear of failure, fear of being judged, fear of not being enough, fear of missing out, and there's a bunch of other fears. Fear of being seen, fear of being fired, fear of being ashamed, fear of embarrassment. It doesn't matter. Every single fear that you can name doesn't matter because it's all part of one big fear. And at the core, at the foundation, it's the same freaking fear. Why? Because this big fear is just one mechanism. Just one mechanism, which is this visual representation over here. Let me explain to you in depth. This is you, all of us, in fact. And the whole existence of us, the way we operate in this world, most of us, is through our thinking, through our mind, thinking, whatever, consciousness, all of that is inside of this space somewhere in our brain. We don't know what it is. Nobody knows. We can scientifically see the areas of our brain, point out which area responsible for what, doesn't matter, but we cannot really explain like what the whole thing is, like consciousness, let's call it at that. And self-image is a big part of it. So this is you, this is us, and the whole bubble here is what's going on inside. And self-image is the very big part of it. And we create that self-image not out of nowhere, right? When we're born, we go through a lot of stuff, a lot of words, a lot of culture, tradition, parents, family, all of that good stuff. It's all in the past, and we collect those things, and that past creates our self-image. And depending on the quality of that past, we have different quality of self-image. If your childhood or the way you were growing up was not really good, people were doubting you, not believing in you, completely opposite you, they were talking shit about you, they were taking you down, you have a very poor self-image. And every single event and interaction that you have in life, doesn't matter which one, by the way, for example, talking to girls, talking to boys, presenting, doing great job at the work, being fired, being rejected, every single event and interaction you perceive through that self-image. And it will make sense, hopefully, by the end. Every single event and interaction is actually neutral. Even breaking up, being rejected, it's all neutral. There is no sadness, there is no suffering, none of that. It just happened. There is an event and it happened. Now, depending on your self-image, I hope you can see it because my screen is on this side, right? Depending on your self-image, you see those events with a certain colors, depending on that self-image again. Because you see the world through that image that you have, through that thinking, that image. And this self-image creates all kinds of different thoughts. For example, and that creates perception. So your past creates your identity, your self-image. That self-image is what gives you a certain perception on life, on events, on interactions, and that perception gives you certain kinds of thoughts. Let me give an example. You broke up with a girl. Most of us think, I'm worthless. I'll never find love. I'm not good enough. Every single person I'll meet will reject me, like in this case here. Which is, if you really think about it and pay attention, which is such a nonsense. How do you know that? You only know that based on your past. And past is just a memory, and memory is just thoughts. It's all in that chain. And you believe this imaginary world as if it was reality in the moment. And you always late. You always rely on thoughts, which are always the past. So you always live in the past. That's why all of us, we all hear the statement, always like live in the present moment, enjoy your life. We all hear it. We all think, yeah, it's truth. But honestly, nobody knows what the fuck does that mean. We think, yeah, we have this weird image of living the present moment. We think we kind of have a certain fantasy about it, and we're like, yeah, it's better to live in the present moment. But you never change. You're always the same. Interesting, right? And that's why you suffer, because of your self-image. For example, let's say someone calls you stupid and you get hurt. Why are you getting hurt? Because in the past, someone told you that being stupid is bad, and you operate on opposites. So if stupid is bad, I have to be smart. So you created image, a separate entity of yourself who is smart. And when someone, let's say this event interaction, when someone calls you stupid, you feel attacked. Not you, but this self-image feels attacked. And you have to protect it. And that's where the battle and suffering starts. You start fighting with yourself. I'm not stupid. Why is he calling me stupid? I gotta prove that I'm not stupid. I gotta prove this, I gotta prove that. Or accepting, oh yeah, I am stupid. I'll always be stupid. I'll never achieve anything. Which both of them are running away from the situation. You're not dealing with them. You're never dealing with the situation. You always run away. Now, very important. It doesn't mean that you have to accept bad attitude toward yourself. It doesn't mean that you have to be okay with disrespect. It's about dealing with the situation, with the conflict, with clarity and power and confidence, without this unnecessary suffering bullshit. Because there are two types of reactions, right? Someone called you stupid and you're like, oh my gosh, you called me stupid, and you genuinely feel offended. You're so naive and gullible. Where the second scenario is someone calls you stupid, like on a serious note, not as a joke, on a serious note, and you feel it. It's very toxic, and you're like, you don't take it personal at all. That by the way, that's the real, true, 100% representation of not taking things personal, because there's no person there. There is no image to be attacked, and you're like, you're just deal with it. For example, yo, why are you calling me stupid? What I do? Explain yourself, and you deal with the fact. You can still be confident. You can still have conflicts. If you have to resolve them, you resolve them with power, with fire, without all this garbage. Okay. So it's all one mechanism. You rely always on the past, because that's how we work. That's your conditioning, our programming. You rely on the past. Past is what created you, imaginary psychological you, which doesn't even exist, again. And some people are afraid, because what do you mean I'm not exist? Which is a different topic for a different video. But I'm just gonna go and say it ahead of time that there is nothing to be afraid of, and I'm not smart. I'm not philosophical or spiritual about it. All of those things are extra fancy words that confuse people. So don't worry about it. The past created you. Depending on the past, there is a quality of what you think about yourself. This imaginary thing that you have about yourself creates perception on every single event and interaction. And hence why this self-image has those specific thoughts on every single event and interaction. And of course, 99% of us are so fucked up, we have awful thoughts about ourselves. And that's why you suffer. That's it. Now, what you can do about it. Some people say, I always hear this stuff. You have to shift your identity. You have to change your frequency. You have to believe. You have to affirm. You have to go deep. Attract the reality that you want. You think, which is all fancy words. There is no secret. And it's actually very counterintuitive. And I'm going to say it. You have to be with it. And you think, what do you mean be with it? You might ask, right? Logically, what do you mean be with it? I'm always with it. I'm always suffering my whole life. I'm always with it. What do you mean? No, you're not. You always run away. You get negative thoughts. You're trying to fight them. You're trying to suppress them. You're trying to accept them. Accepting is also running away. As you're trying to accept, you're trying to suppress, you're trying to run away. You never deal with it 101. You never do it. And that's a very subtle thing to do. And that's real art. Especially nowadays in a digital world, everyone's confused, everyone's distracted. No one's really talking to each other, genuinely. You always, like, imagine, by having this thing here, all this thing here, you talk to other people through that lens as well. So you don't really talk to anyone, and they don't really talk to you as well. Because you're very careful with it, right? You're so fragile, so scared. You talk a certain way. And the same applies to every single person as well. And that's why if we look back to those fears, fear of failure, how can you have fear of failure if there is no one to fail at something? You just do things, get certain outcome. If it's not the one that you expected, you just do it again and improve. No failure. Fear of being judged. You're like, wait a second, other people are the same, so even if they judge me, doesn't really matter. They judge me based on their past, on their numbers, or on their, on their scale of whatever they judge me on. It's not backed up by anything. There's only practical side of things. I closed those amount of clients, I need to close this amount. Okay, work on it. I said this, she said this, I don't like this. Okay, next, moving to the next person. Only practical side of things. And you won't become like a robot either. Some people are afraid, what if I work on this stuff, if I destroy all those things, what if I become like a robot, like a monk? And that's another topic for another video, because we have such a weird image about this whole thing, that you will become nothing, that you have to become nothing. All this, again, just extra fancy words that represent nothing, and you just get more confused. Fear of not being good enough for what and for who? Fear of missing out on what, in comparison with who? All those fears just go away once you truly understand this mechanism. Not intellectually, by the way. You probably look at this image and you think you understand it, right? Yeah, it makes sense. My past creates my image, and my image. You have to really, like, perceive it with your whole, I don't know, existence, with your whole being. And when you see it, it becomes so funny. It makes all the sense, and you just realize that you can do anything, literally. But it's hard. It's actually not hard, but it's very subtle, because imagine years of thinking this way about yourself, a certain way about yourself, and then suddenly, trying to understand this. It's very subtle. So yeah, all your fears are illusions, psychological fears. Because there's a difference between psychological fear and physical fear, when a car moving fast towards you. That's different stuff. But for now, you can do anything.